myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Welcome to NUFC Matters. It's Friday. It is the three Amigos, and we just want to start by saying that the 97 who lost their lives at Hillsborough are never forgotten. Always something that brings back horrific memories for those of us who remember that specific day in football history when 97 football fans went to a football match and never came back. And it's a testament, I think, to people across the world, across social media today. Various tributes have been famous people from fans, former footballers, from former managers, etc. But yes, never forgotten, and you'll never walk alone. So that is our little tribute, and it doesn't get any easier with time. That's doesn't. Lots to talk about on the show, but first of all, a big welcome back to Ian Mearns, who has been busy in the Houses of Parliament and Westminster and doing his job in the constituency. Ian, great to see you, mate. How are you?
I'm very well. I've had my ups and downs. I had a bit of a bad weekend a couple of weekends ago where I thought I was getting shingles, but it turned out just to be a viral infection, and I had like a migraine headache for about 3 or 4 days. But you know, these things come and go. You cannot escape completely when you get to my age, Stevie. That's what happens.
No, definitely. I think we're all hedging towards that. I'm afraid.
Well, on this show. Not, mate.
But it's great. It's great to have you back on. And I mean, look, Ian, we'll start with you. A hell of a lot has changed. I mean, you know, since we last had you on the show, right. You know, obviously takeover's gone through. Eddie Howe's in. We had our first transfer window. We looked as if we were all but doomed to relegation, Ian. But an amazing run of 9 games unbeaten. Subsequently, we lost, 3 away games, which was no great surprise. Gathered the current predicament we find ourselves in. But we managed to extend the unbeaten home run to 4 wins. And probably you would say we are safe. Maybe let's have one more win just to make sure. But it's What's your take been in a nutshell about all of that, Ian? What's been the highs and lows for you in Newcastle?
Well, particularly when we're coming back on here, I told you there was a player in there waiting to get out. I did. I kept telling you that.
Did.
There was a player in there. And where's he from?
Exactly.
Where's he from? How much did he cost? What do we think of him? What's he called?
You'll be telling me next he lives in your constituency, Ian.
I really don't know.
What made you think that there was a player in Joe Linton? Because none of us saw it.
Well, look, I just thought, when I'd seen coverage of him in his previous club, and that was, and I thought, well, God, why can't we see some of that? And and as it happens, since he's been moved inside and into the midfield, I think he's been really, really good. Really, really good indeed. I mean, just what we need. He's a box-to-box player, and I think there are aspects of his game obviously he still needs to work on. I'd love to see him get a few goals, but it's an amazing transformation, and I think you've got to give credit to Eddie Howe for that as well, because they've obviously seen something that I thought I was seeing as well. And they've brought the best out of him. So good luck to the lad. Yeah, that's really good. Really good.
Yeah, no, it is good. And well done to you for seeing a player in him. And Steve Nixon as well, it has to be said. I did email him, Ian, by the way. If I get something wrong, Ian, I'll always hold my hands up and admit it. And I did email Steve Nixon and apologise and said, what do I know about football? Because he clearly saw a player within him. And and rightly so. Happy Good Friday to everybody. And I hope you've had a few Easter eggs. I know it's not due till Sunday, but I'm sure some of you will have been tucking into the Easter eggs. And there's so many different avenues we could go down and start with today. But let's talk about Tom Dixon's subject, which is the sacking of Sean Dyche, Mitch. Only 8 games left in the season. He's been deemed surplus to requirements at Burnley. We know what the league predicament is. We can see that.
I've got a line Last throw of the ditch for Burnley.
So I'm coming and waiting away, Mearns.
He's back. He's back with the dad jokes. Elliot Slesser, watch out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Mitch, it is a bit of a weird time to sack him. I mean, look, they're right in the middle of this relegation battle. It's between them and Everton, I would say, now for that last spot for relegation. Strange time to sack somebody who was the longest serving Premier League manager.
I've literally just been sat with Steve Bennett bouncing this around before I come in to do the show. And the only reason I can think that they've taken this action is he's turned round to them and said, right, if we go down, I'm not staying. So somebody in the club's turned around and said, well, get out the door then. I'm trying to apply sort of logic to something that makes seemingly no sense to me.
Well,
because you have the guts.
The other thing that struck me immediately was maybe there's been a meeting of that nature, and he said to them, well, look, if I'm going to stay here by next season and we do survive, if we survive, I want 60 to 80 million to spend.
There's got to have been some sort of conversation, because I don't see a disconnect from the players to him. Because that certainly wasn't there tonight to beat Everton.
No.
Now, I didn't see the game against Norwich, but Norwich has still got a chance to get out of it, and they're fighting equally as hard for their lives. So, it just seems such a strange move. Applying logic to it makes no sense to me. Other than, has there been a conversation that the Burnley board really have not enjoyed, and they've just gone dull? And if they've done that, they've already said that whoever's coming in won't be in place for Sunday against West Ham. They've already said the under 23 manager's taking the team for that. So actually, whoever comes in is going to have 7 games. And we've discussed new manager bounces don't always happen. It didn't happen to us. So are they expecting some sort of miracle? I don't get it. I don't even have a clue. I know that the romantic notion on Twitter today seems to be that Rafa's going to go in and keep them up and relegate Everton, and that'll be everybody's just desserts. But you know what? He's not a bloody magician.
No.
You might as well get David Copperfield in and see if he can do a job, because 7 games is nout, absolutely nout to get them together. It's not just a new manager bounce they want. It's like, they need something, a new manager fired out of a cannon or something. I just don't get it. I can't get my head around the actual thinking about it unless there's been a conversation along the lines of what myself and Ian had just said, and the board have taken great offence to it and just turned around and said, right, there's the door back, get out.
Ian, what's your take on it? It's a strange time to sack a manager.
I think you're right, but I'm maybe just wondering whether the board at Burnley have just resigned themselves to going down, and they're thinking about bringing someone in who's going to prepare them next season in the Championship to come back up. I mean, I thought that performance at Norwich was woeful, frankly. I mean, and after such a good performance against Everton. But there you go. It's I suppose like we've been for many years, that lack of consistency, not able to build on one good result. I mean, how many times have you seen us in the last sort of 7, 8, 9 seasons beat a good side and then do woefully badly against one of the lower ones? And under Steve Bruce, one of my biggest criticisms of Steve Bruce was that we had a terrible record against the teams around us in the bottom 5 or 6. But it is a strange decision to get rid of him 8 matches to go, unless they've got somebody lined up. But it doesn't look like looks like he's took the whole of the coaching staff with him as well.
Yep, Steve Stone's gone, and the rest of them all departed. So, interesting to see where he ends up. I think there'll be a few people vying for his signature, Steve. It's, longest serving manager, gone, just like that.
Yep, 10 years. Now it's Jurgen Klopp, who is the longest serving manager in the Premier League, believe it or not. And it doesn't seem like 5 minutes since he took over at Liverpool, to be perfectly honest. It's really interesting, this whole Burnley situation. It's as though the American owners haven't realised there's such a thing as relegation. Do they think it still runs in the same way as it runs in America? Have they looked along the M62 and thought, you know what, maybe it's because of next season, what we're looking at, and I genuinely think there's been a fallout. I think you guys are dead right. There's been a fallout in terms of not this season, but what they're planning to do next season. And I think there's been an almighty fallout. And I think they're looking along the road and going, you know what? Maybe it's like Leeds. Maybe we need an American in. We're an American-owned company. Maybe we need an American with that collegiate-based sort of system that they'll abide by. You know, the coaches will just do whatever the owner tells them. I think there's possibly that mentality that's taken over, because there certainly sounds like there's been a massive fallout. You don't clear out all the backroom staff and everyone and then tell your second half that you're going to be as assistant manager for the next couple of games along with the under-23 coach. That just doesn't work, you know, especially in this day and age, and especially the situation that they're in. So fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And they'll not get a bounce, I don't think, because the fans weren't against him. He hadn't lost the fans. Clubs.
No, he hadn't.
There's a fallout with the owners because he has not lost the fans. I think he could have walked on water. He could have walked on glass. He could have had everybody else walking on glass, and the fans would have been happy with him because they've been happy with him for 10 years. So it just seems like a crazy, crazy decision at a crazy time with, 7-8 games to go.
Yeah. I mean, we know financially, because of the way the buyout happened, Burnley are up against the gun financially, and a relegation for them is going to be, it'll be essential for them to come back up in a winner. Because once the parachute payments start to run out, Burnley are in bother. They'll get 1 year where the big parachute payment lands to get back up, then it's got to come straight back up. And so is the decision thinking, right, we're preparing for next season now, and assuming that we're going down and hoping that we don't?
Yeah. And who's to say there's parachute payments? Who's to say that following season after that there's parachute payments? If changes happen within the league structure and the payment structure, and that, because that's the one thing that all the clubs down in the lower leagues are complaining about. They're saying the parachute payment distorts everything. So who's to say that they would even benefit from a second season of parachute payments if they didn't manage to get up in the first season? All very, very strange, Mitch. All very strange.
Yeah, Jody Toombalay says Dyche got Burnley 7th and in Europe. Who would have ever have thought that? He did a fantastic job when you wait up. Tom Dixon says, are they not happy with him because they lost Chris Wood? I mean, the Chris Wood situation definitely played its part in this, I think, because they lost them, the main striker, although he wasn't performing for them this season, for a relegation rival, which we were at the time, to take the main striker away from them and leave him. I get the feeling maybe this Steve, might have been his choice. Dyche might have wanted to leave as well, you know.
But Steve, we were being told what a terrible decision it was by everybody, and they bought like some sort of equivalent of John Charles and Pellier rolled into one in this week host, and he's not done anything for them, you know. And so the Wood situation, he had a buyout clause in his contract, like so many players do.
But
so there's nothing they could have done to keep him.
Do you know how old John Charles and Pellier would be now, like?
Probably about 150, mate.
Yeah. Let's look at this. Alan Little's put this up about the Gazza documentary, and I've got to be honest, I found this quite a harrowing watch. I've watched Gazza documentaries, I'm sure you guys have, like over the years. There's been so many of them. This one really, not so much on the personal and football. It was a combination of both, but it's more about the tabloids. Mitch, and I'm not sure whether you've had time to catch up with it or not.
I haven't had a chance to catch up with it, but it'll eventually appear on my little telly box.
Well, believe you me, it's a hard watch, mate. And I mean, Gazza and the tabloids is something which we've all had to, I think probably years ago we used to look at it and go, Gazza's making it about. I've had conversations with Paul many times where he's told me his phone was getting tapped, and he was, he had all these issues, and I used to go, yeah, like everybody else did. But it's quite a hard watch last night to show how how much of this is true.
I gather from comments I've seen on it, the one thing that oozes out of this is how absolutely unapologetic the tabloid guys are about it as well. Yeah. And that for me in this day and age is poor form at best. At least hold your hands up and say, do you know what, we shouldn't have done that. Because I mean, we've all had interactions with Gazza in one way, shape, or form. Yeah. We've all got personal Gazza stories, particularly when we were trying to help him get his shit together back at the club. If you remember, Steve. Yeah. and we can laugh about them, but there's always a and a melancholy part of it, in a genuine sadness because of some of the stuff that was going on. And the poor guy didn't really have a chance in some respects. Yeah. And I've no tales of, and I've got personal mates who tried to look after him once when he was over here on a gig, and it was one of the most impossible tasks he's ever had, to do in terms of sort of personal security, etc. And it's to see or to hear that the guys that really, really, really rammed everything home seem totally unapologetic about it now in the aftermath. That's the thing that I think when I watch it, that's going to stick in my craw. I can feel my hackles coming up already, and I'm not even bloody seeing it. It's not right. There seemed to be nobody there to put the brakes on at the right time for them.
Yeah, Ian, I mean, you and I have lived in Gateshead, all of our lives. We've seen Paul at his best. We've seen Paul at his worst. The guy sometimes doesn't help himself, but there's no doubt. That documentary showed the awful side of media, and I mean, I gather lots of things have changed now. There's committees in place and government laws in place, etc., to stop this kind of horrendous thing happening. But that really wasn't nice what happened to Paul over those years.
God, I mean, absolutely dreadful. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, the likes of Piers Morgan and Rebecca Brooks, I mean, they've got a lot to answer for, with their particular antics. And of course, they've been found wanting in so many other respects with regard to so many other people that they've affected, through phone tapping and all the rest of it. So, it's quite clear that all they're interested in is all they were interested in is selling newspapers. But I don't think the media is much better now. Frankly, there's other mechanisms in place, as you've alluded to, Steve. But they still get round it, and I don't believe that they behave particularly well. That sort of red top press that we have in this country, and I think there's. I haven't seen the program yet, but I've seen some of the clips advertising it, and there's a comment from Piers Morgan along the lines of, we build them up, they knock themselves down. Well, I mean, no, they don't knock themselves down. They're completely and utterly undermined. When they're being got at by that, and you're quite right, Steve. I mean, going back sort of 35 years or so, I remember Gazza as a young lad, and I'm not kidding. He had a heart of gold, absolute heart of gold. He did loads and loads and loads for local community stuff and that. Really, really good lad from that perspective. But there's no doubt about it. There was an awful lot of people using him, and of course that would have just massively undermined him as an individual.
No, certainly did. Alan Little, part 2. He says part 2 of the documentary will be an even harder watch. If you go onto iPlayer, it's actually on there, mate. I've watched both episodes now, mate. So it's well worth a watch. Yeah, Steve. I mean, Mark Byers says Danny Baker and Chris Evans have a lot to answer for. I've got to be honest. So did his former missus. Her relationship was very close with Rebecca, who Ian's just mentioned there, who of course was a journalist back in those days. She was, she basically found the golden egg. She was the one who created Shazza and Gazza. And I think when you watch the program, her and Piers Morgan, really did, work their magic, did their job, I guess is probably the way you would look at it. But the people who suffered were of course, Cheryl, Paul, and of course, the kids and the family. And it was a horrible reminder of the way the tabloid press can be and how they've operated in the past.
Yeah. I got also a terrible reminder of what the tabloid press and what the so-called friends of Paul Gascoigne and were like. On, I think it was Tuesday night, I was listening to, it was either Monday or Tuesday, I was listening to a national radio show where the presenter, who was also one of that gang of three, along with Danny Baker and Chris Evans, who used to go out drinking with him, with Paul, regularly on a Saturday night and other nights in London. And he was talking about the documentary. He tried to justify his own situation. He tried to explain that he hadn't met Paul for the last 20 years, which I thought said an awful lot. Mm-hmm. but he related to an article that had been written not in a red top, but in one of the more broadsheet papers by a reporter who originally, I know does support Sunderland. I think he's Irish. People will twig on who it is, I'm sure. And he was immediately taken to task because he said he was pointing that he was implying that the broadsheets were better than the red tops, and a particular Northeast journalist who was on the panel at the same time immediately went on the defensive of the red tops and was having none of the fact. And he came up with all sorts of accusations to defend the tabloid press. And then the particular reporter in question, the particular presenter in question, made some stories or gave us some stories about how, Paul would arrange to meet them in London on a Saturday night when he was playing in Rangers, and he would fly down and he'd already be in the bar and drunk by the time they arrived in Soho after their program that they used to do. But they still went out with him, and they still enjoyed it, and they still took the drinks, and they still took the money, and they still arranged for the tabloid press to be there to take the photographs, etc., etc. Like, we all know that that's what happened. Paul's phone was being tapped by the News of the World and by the Daily Mirror. You mentioned some names there. You mentioned Rebecca Brooks. You mentioned Piers Morgan. The only person who actually took the brunt, I think it was 3 people in total, but Coulson from all of those was the one who took the brunt of it and went to jail. She got off with it all, which was fascinating. And I think if we roll it back, Ian, we said that it still goes on. It still goes on because we never ever got the Levinson 2, did we?
Correct.
That never occurred. The government decided that it was in the best interest of everybody to just park that to one side, as the government of the day currently parks everything to one side, and it just rolls through and nothing ever happens. I suspect, and we'll probably talk about it later, that similar type of things are happening at the moment when it comes to governance of football. We can see the Premier League and we can see the FA putting their own little spin on things, trying to dilute the reports and give their own opinion on why it should be them that run and still remain governors of the game, and it shouldn't be political, etc. But this is the way that the establishment operate. But the very fact that we never got Levinson 2 tells you that really they just brushed everything else under the carpet, turned around to the likes of the News of the World, the Mirror, and the Sun, and just said, do whatever you've got to do in terms of paying those people off. They're going to take you to court anyway. Just give them the money, and then we'll just forget about it as well. That's the way that was operating. Paul was one of hundreds of people that suffered. Max Mosley, I watched an article. Max Mosley ended up killing himself last year, but because he was suffering from terminal cancer. But the way that they hounded Max Mosley, first of all, because of his private life, but then when he then took them to task in the manner that he did with the campaigns to show the rest of the country what these people were really like and how they were operating. So all in all, the only people we can point the finger at Paul. We can say that he did this and he did that wrong in his life, and he'll probably the first to admit he did certain things. But the pressure that man was put under, 80, 85, 90% of the pressure that he was put under came from the way that he was treated by the tabloid press, and his mind couldn't take it in the end, and it all blew up for him. And no wonder the lad spent the majority of his time thinking he was paranoid. Shocking, absolutely shocking.
Yeah,
but I think as well, though. I mean, there are lots and lots of people who use them as a toy. That basically, that used them, had a good time with them, and then dropped them like a stone. And he literally did just use them as a toy.
Yeah, Ghost wrote books for him. All of those type of things, took the money. I'll be a ghostwriter. I'll do the book, but I'll take me 50, 60, 70% or whatever it was. All of those type of people, everyone who would arrange for events for him to go to and then took the money from him, just plied him with drink, because let's face it, the more drunk he was, the more entertaining they thought it would be for them, because then it would be beneficial. That's the way that back in that period of the 90s, a lot of people's mindset was at. And the tabloids wanted the scandal. They wanted to see him falling down the stairs. They wanted to see him hitting people because they wanted the photographs, because that's what sold the newspapers.
Yeah, buying bottles of vodka, leaving them on his doorstep, that kind of thing was awful. And yeah, Kirk's right. I mean, you know, he did have that trauma, something which didn't really come out until a little bit later into his career, of seeing, you know, his best friend die in his arms as a child, and that never recovered from that trauma. And that you know, that has played a huge part in his life. Jimmy Five Bellies is Jimmy Two Bellies now, Alan. And yeah, he's not on the scene with Paul anymore. Sadly, they don't, you know, they don't speak anymore. But yeah, I'll keep in touch with Jimmy. I've had a few texts backwards and forwards with him yesterday after I'd watched the final documentary, and he is fine. He's living his life and doing well for himself. So yeah, great. Okay, Steve, I think you've been reading me notes, because we're going to go in a roundabout way, I guess, to football governance on our next topic, and it's the UEFA. It's a bit like one of those Scooby-Doo plans by the villain, isn't it? UEFA attempting a backdoor idea of the European Super League reared its head again this week. And for those of you who've been, you know, sleeping under a rock and missed it, then there has been a proposal from UEFA to increase the number of Champions League group stage matches from 6 to 10 from the year 2024. But, and this is the big one, to reserve 2 qualification berths based on historic European performance rather than domestic achievement. So obviously there's fears now that this will create a cartel of rich clubs and damage domestic competitions. I guess if we're going to be pedantic here, the good news is that Newcastle, Mitch, are actually somebody who could benefit with one of these historical qualification berths.
We still have a UEFA coefficient of sorts, yes. But it's just a way of appeasing people, because this is effectively rubbing the tummies of the teams that wanted to do a breakaway Super League. They say, well, will this keep you happy? Mm-hmm. Increasing the group games is a short-term thing, because for the season after that, this is where they've announced they want to move to the Swiss-style chess system, which is going to increase group stage games from 120-something to 230-something. It'll also increase the number of games for television that are top teams against top teams, and honestly, to understand that qualification system, it's going to take some explaining. I think I've got my head around it now, but I've just spent about probably a month looking at it. And so all of it is to increase the amount of television revenue, keep the television companies happy, keep the big clubs happy, and then everybody waltzes off into the sunset with some form of Super League in the middle of the week. Just UEFA are happy with it because it's their competition. That's what it's all about for me, and it stinks. How can you have places reserved in a competition for historic performance? And how far back do you want to go with that? Can we have an automatic qualification to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup because we did well in it in the 1950s? Where do you stop with this? You know, it's preposterous. Your entry into competition should be on sport and merit alone. I mean, and if you're into that competition,
do you not think, Mitch? I mean, you know, this having sort of favoured son accession to a competition on an annual basis, it just completely undermines the integrity of the competition itself, but also of the league that those teams play in. Because you know, you're getting people who are being picked out of, you know, a Premier League or La Liga or whatever, and saying, oh well, you know, they're my mates, so they get in, and they've been good in the past, you know, but they haven't done it quite well this season. Just completely undermines the integrity. And you know, what happens with the clubs who would have qualified if a place was available to qualify by the normal means? Yeah. I mean, you know, if football ceases to be to get into these competitions by merit in the season that you're playing in, just completely undermines the integrity. And I think the other thing is about this is, though, you're saying about, you know, about more television revenue. How much more can the television revenue cake grow? Or is it going to be about redistribution of the cake that currently exists? That's the problem.
It'll be about creating a platform similar to what the NFL have in Game Pass, where UEFA set up the broadcasting rights and take all the money. That's what they're setting up. and they'll partner up with somebody like Amazon. They'll partner up with somebody like Facebook. That's the way it's going to go. I reckon it'll not be a traditional broadcast company. It'll be something different, and it'll be along the lines of NFL Game Pass, where you can access any game you like at any time you like for just a small fee. But then when you add all those monthly fees together, that's a hell of a size cake. And I think that's the way they want to go with it. And UEFA will want to control that too.
And in 3 years' time, it'll be a Saturday evening.
Oh,
that's when the games will be.
Do you know what it is?
Domestic leagues will come into midweek when you can play Monday to Friday and spread it across. And then the big games, the Champions League game will take place sometime on a Saturday. And the way it's going, it could well be a Saturday afternoon or more than likely a Saturday evening in Europe, because that fits in perfectly with, or across a weekend, taking the Sunday into consideration, because that fits in perfectly with everybody who's now starting to own football clubs, like Americans, for example, who like that franchise system. And that's where that will fit.
And it's also still...
Then you have owners like Kroenke. You'll have owners like Kroenke at Arsenal who will then be happy for them to finish fourth or finish fifth, because with his coefficient, because if he finishes fifth every single year, his coefficient will remain the same, because he'll stay in that little fancy group. That's why all of a sudden it's Champions League. That's what these owners want. They just want to finish in the top 4, top 5, and this is where the whole thing. You can just see the creep. You can see the creep, and you can see where domestic leagues will be getting pushed out, or domestic leagues will be pushed to a midweek league, and then the European League, which is going to be the Champions League, will absorb everything else over a weekend.
And you remember things like that year that Norwich did really well out of the blue and were challenging for the title. Imagine they came alive one season and they ended up finishing third. But they don't get into the Champions League because Arsenal are 5th and Chelsea are 6th. Or Arsenal are 4th and Chelsea are 5th. That would be a scandal. And that takes away not just the integrity of our league, it takes away the romance and the whole point of why we friggin' bother.
Yeah, definitely want to watch that, and hopefully they won't get through the back door, but that is obviously their hope and their aim. Time for one of our first segments, which we have on the show, and it is Tweet of the Week. Tweet of the Week, where we get you to show us a few tweets that you think are worth mentioning on the show. And first off was this wonderful thread that I found, which Colin started. And he put it was the 20th anniversary of this horrible head clash between Rob Lee and Alan Shearer. Of course, when Rob Lee was playing for Derby County. Now, of course, Alan and Rob obviously saw this. So Rob went, wow, 20 years ago. Now that hurt. Alan Shearer then put, did it? Rob Lee says, I believe I stayed on the pitch longer than you. Hashtag tough Geordie. Alan Shearer says, that's why we won. Brilliant. It's great when people get involved in tweets like that, especially when it's big names such as Alan and Brilliant. Rob. That one was from Liam Gallagher. I'm not going to read it out, but he wasn't very happy with the referee's performance.
Was that the referee for the Newcastle Chelsea game?
I think so. Yeah, he could have watched any of Newcastle's recent referees, Ian. There's no doubt about that. As everybody knows on the show, I do enjoy picking out picture tweets, and I just love this one. And I remember watching this in the game the weekend, Liverpool versus Man City. How casual was that? From the Man City keeper at the weekend. There was no rushing. He just tapped it away. Cool as you like, but great photo capture there as well. This one as well from Wilfred. A couple of people pointed this one out. The mood when your team has won the night before. Happy Saturday, Wilfred. You're looking very cool, calm and collected there, sir, with your chosen cocktail. I hope life is good, and we hope to catch up with you very soon. Love this one. Who doesn't not like a shirt collection? And I think most of us can probably claim to have owned at least 6 or 7 of those ones. Some absolute belters in there. I can see the Ginola purple and blue. You can see the old Liam O'Brien over the wall one, the Darren Peacock, a couple of John Anderson specials in there as well, I think, from back in the day, the Greenhalgh's beer one down in the bottom right-hand side. But love that when people share their collections. And yes, NUFC born, that collection is coming along nicely. This one, Jill Towers, before and after. Coke, you can see the horrendous effects of Coke has. Booze, again, you see the horrendous effects that has. Speed, yeah. And then a chippy tea in the bottom right-hand corner. That did hit home with me because I just had a chippy tea when somebody sent us that. But yeah, I love that. Nice reflection on that. You might have to watch this one a little bit, lads. Scarred for Life says, try and stop yourself. It's not possible.
No, it isn't. I saw it.
Underground, overground, wobbling free, of course. Yeah, brilliant, good one. Scarred for Life. Always some good content on there. Now, this one was interesting. I bet everyone starts looking at photographs of crowd celebrations now after this tweet from Max Power. Now, obviously, I've had to get the individual photos, but he just goes football and then laughs. He zoomed in on some of the facial expressions of the people who ended up in a heap at this match. So there's one. Okay, this is all in that photograph. So that's the actual photograph there. Just look at the clip of them. And I love that granny in the top, right in the top middle. She's obviously seen the camera and decided to post. But yeah, brilliant. So maybe something you can start doing, folks, at home.
Good advert for real seating that, Ian.
Absolutely brilliant. Thanks for sending that in anyway. This one was from Andy Daglish. She went, joined this madhouse of an app in 2010. This, my friends, is my favourite picture ever to grace this platform. It makes me smile every time I see it. And of course, Bruno picked up one of the young ball boys after the celebrations last weekend. And of course, somebody has just adapted the photo and made it look like Ryan Fraser. So yeah, that is the positive side of Twitter.
Honestly, Stevie, how sad am I? I actually thought it was Ryan Fraser.
Brilliant. That makes it even funnier. Paddy Power, when Alan St. Maximin cracks the whole scoring goals thing, he's going to wait about 8 Ballons d'Or in a row. Says Paddy Power. A little hint of sarcasm there at the Alan St. Maximin situation. Steve Hasty posted this one. Who is that, Steve?
It's some Sunderland fan who was in the store in Eldon Gardens where you can buy all of the kits this week. They've had a drop-in shop, and there he is. He's found his prize Sunderland shirt, but boy, does he look happy.
What I was looking at is on the wall there. It's got a pop-up Newcastle shop poster, which is absolutely brilliant. So, did you notice that on the wall?
Well, that's what it was. It was the shop was in Eldon Gardens. It was a pop-up store. And you could buy, I mean, there was hundreds and hundreds, not thousands of shirts that you could pick up. But the Newcastle shirts, the price they were going for was astronomical. I began to look in my wardrobe myself and then the bottom of the cupboard and see how much shirts I've got worth, you know. But great to see. But I think a lot of the Newcastle fans were having a bit of a pop with the Sunderland fans because they were going for like a $5 and a $10, you know.
Yeah, good stuff. Ian Hull, we've used many of his tweets on this show before. He goes, my belt. And then the next picture, my belt when I'm about to myself. Very good. Yes, I think we've all experienced that, mate. And he also put this, it's an old Viz classic. I used to love these Viz letters. I don't know about any of your other readers, but I can't wait to have my inbox filled with adverts using Easter-centric puns like excellent and exciting. That'll keep me going until the spectacular sales in October. Life is just one long thrill ride, I can tell you. Mike Tatham, St. Andrews. Yeah, the Viz letters were always very good. Thank you for that, mate. And Ian also had some look in the National last week. He says he got 3 tips up a bookie for the Grand National. Sunshine, moonlight and good times. If they don't win, don't blame it on the sunshine. Don't blame it on the moonlight. Don't blame it on the good times. Blame it on the bookie. Very good, mate. Very good.
You missed a bit off at the start of that, though, you see, because the 3 tips came from the bookie in the first place.
That's right, yeah, that's right. So he said we've got the king of jokes back. We've got the king of jokes back. Wayne Bennett just reposted this, and this was good. Demba Ba and Papa Cisse must have been on the phone to each other this week, because while Papa Cisse feeling as if he still plays for Newcastle, and then Demba Ba put black and white are the best colour on earth, even if some don't call them colours. Now, Demba Ba was going on then, he ended up a conversation with many Newcastle fans just about his time, but it's amazing to see the effects of a takeover on former players. And I've had conversations with a few of them in recent weeks, and how connected again they feel with the club, which just shows you a takeover can have that kind of effect. It's fantastic. Fesshole is becoming a bit of a regular on here. My wife and I split up amicably and has gone to live with her parents while I sell the house. I've been digging a hole in my back garden over the last few nights just to wake the neighbours up. Honestly, he's got a sense of humour, that lad. This one, Steve Jackson put getting married against 1-0 versus Wolves. Excellent, mate. Excellent. And this one was the winner this week for me. Tottenham Hotspur posted, what a finish. Take a bow. Dejan Klaviski. Billy put, he's not Finnish. He's Swedish. And then Tottenham's club, he's not finished. He's only 21.
Brilliant.
Well done, Tottenham. Great bit of social media skills there. Keep them coming. If you see any tweets of the week, get them over to me, Steve, or Neil, and we will get them on the show. Now, obviously, because Ian's back, and you've already heard Ian's started with his repartee this week. Good to hear a few of his jokes. But you're probably unaware, but we've had local snooker player Elliot Slesser, who's been filling in for you while you've been away. So have a read of some of his jokes, Ian, and then we'll do his joke for this week. I can see you nodding approvingly there, Ian. Did you like that?
I love all that sort of stuff. I love all that stuff.
Okay, well, Elliot's joke of the week is this. My book on clocks has finally arrived. It's about time.
Yeah.
My tummy did reply to him and said, you've got too much time on your hands.
Oh,
very good. Very good. Very good. But yes, thank you, Elliot, for sending that in, mate. And you've got the king of jokes on the show, and we've got Elliot as well, which is great. So thank you for that this week. Okay, let's see what the people in the chat are wanting to talk about. Marty Jago, just asking Mitch what our thoughts are on Freddie Woodman's loan deal to Bournemouth. He says it's a complete waste of time. He's just sitting on the bench.
Seems so. And it seems, again, if he's been unable to force his way into the Bournemouth side, I think we've got to sit down with him and say, where does our future go with him here? Unfortunately, because he's not a kid anymore. Let's be honest. And I think if he was realising his potential, he would be breathing down Dubravka's neck. And it was very clear when he did play for us in the Premier League, he seemed to be lacking something. Mm-hmm. Or the defenders didn't seem comfortable in front of him, one or the other. But either way, if he's been unable to force his way into that Bournemouth side on loan, when you think he's been taken down there for a reason, so why hasn't it worked? I think we've got to sit down and say, well, what next? Where do we all go from here? What's the best solution for you? Because as a young professional footballer, you should be playing games.
Yeah. Yeah, Ian, that's the case, isn't it? He needs to be playing games. I think he'll be away. I don't think he'll stay in Newcastle.
I think that's entirely right, Stephen. And I think, look, with the ambition that the club now has, because it didn't before, we'll be looking for better than that, frankly. And I wish the lad well, but I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Dubravka, and therefore, he's got to. I think he's got to play his trade elsewhere, frankly.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to remember that this lad played virtually the whole season for Swansea. He was outstanding. He was the player of the season. They got very, very close to playoffs, and then he comes back. He started the season off with it, then he goes on loan, and like you see, can't get into the Bournemouth team. I think if we're going to say anything, he's unfortunate that he's a goalkeeper. In the goalkeeping position, you're up against usually one other person for a place. And it's very rare that you get goalkeepers injured, although we've seen quite a number of injuries in our goalkeepers over the last couple of seasons. But establishment, normally, a goalkeeper, once he marks his place, that's it. He's got to be absolute rubbish before they then loses his place on form. And he hasn't been able to get himself in. The goalkeeper who's there at Bournemouth obviously having a good season. The club's been having a good season, and it just hasn't gone for him. And maybe he went just at the wrong time. Maybe the season had already started. The other goalkeeper was already established. Then Parker went, you know what, I'll go for him. But it just, like you say, the position just hasn't opened up for him. And I think that's what he's suffering from. And there will be a very, very interesting conversation, because I think with Newcastle, we've also got the situation with Darlow. Darlow's, 31, 32. Where's he going to be next season? Is he going to be with us? A lot of talk about us looking for a new number one or someone to challenge Dubravka. Henderson at Man United has been mentioned, various other goalkeepers, various goalkeepers in Europe. So the goalkeeper position, obviously one that the club's looking at, but it doesn't sound as though Freddie Woodman's in the reckoning for challenging, and it's a case of moving on. I always thought that Woodman suffered from the fact that his dad was at the club during the heights of the Porgy time and just after, and then I think his father kind of directed his career, if you like, in pointing him where to go on loan. He got a big long extension to his contract and then was immediately out on loan. And in those days under Mike Lashley, that was very much a situation of protecting the value in case we could sell him. But of course, if it's a goalkeeper who's not playing in the first place, his value's hardly going to rise or even stay at what you think it's going to be. It's going to eventually reach a point where you're almost giving him away, So I think he's been unfortunate in that respect. But he must be disappointed that he's not getting a first team place, and he'll be looking at his own career. It's not just going to be a case of Newcastle United looking. I think he's going to be looking himself.
Yeah. The time he should have come through was after he had that magnificent tournament for England under 20s.
Yeah.
And he'd come back from that, and he was the hot property at that age group.
Yeah.
Probably in world football at the time, as a young goalkeeper. And I think we didn't do enough for him then to push on from there.
Look,
and the loan he had after that should have been a much better and expansive one.
Yeah, maybe it was lazy in so much as goalkeepers. Everybody look at the goalkeeper. They look at their age and think, you know what? They start to get better and they start to become. Once they're 31, 32, and have a career till 37, 38. It's unlike a 21-year-old. 21-year-old keepers were very rare. Now all of a sudden, we've got young goalkeepers challenging for England spots. Players that have been playing as 21, 2 and 3-year-old in the Premier League for 3 and 4 seasons now and have established themselves. And Woodman hasn't been on that particular ladder, has he?
No.
That all changed for me when El Caceres come through with Real Madrid as an 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah. And
everybody in world football suddenly turned around and said, well, see, a goalkeeper doesn't have to be nearly 40.
Yeah.
and the advent of the super keeper on top of that, you need somebody who's much more athletic, much fitter, can do everything, and can use both feet. It's become a very, very different position in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't do him a favour when he came back from that World Cup, under 20 World Cup. Is probably the hottest young keeper in the world.
Yeah. The concept of the sweeper keeper now, isn't it? Really, you've got to be a fantastic goalkeeper, but as you say, Mitch, you've got to be able to play football as well, and be able to pass accurately, and not just like distribute the ball read up the pitch. You've got to be able to, because the amount of teams now that want to play from the back, keep possession. It's the old maxim. If the other team haven't got the ball, they can't score a goal. You keep possession,
If all the positions as well, Ian, in the first 11 of a team, that's the position that's evolved so massively over the last 30, 40 years. You know, there used to be a time when a goalkeeper would catch the ball, he'd be able to bounce it all around the box. Then they restricted them to a 6 second. Then they restricted them to 4-step. There used to be the 4-step rule. Then it became the 6 second rule. Then all of a sudden, once you drop it, you've got to kick it. Now they've got to be able to dribble the ball out, you know. And also you've got that ridiculous situation that you have now that we've changed the way that goal kicks are taken, where you can take a short goal kick still in your own box, which means you tend to have your 2 central defenders stand on either side of the 6-yard box. And what happens is immediately you're under pressure. So that's when that, exactly what you're saying, the sweeper goalkeeper comes into his own, because invariably the ball goes back to him at some point in time because the fullbacks are so far up the wing that I just cannot get my head around. I noticed it's something Newcastle in the last 6 months have stopped doing. It's not, we don't play those short corners, those short goal kicks anymore. The goal kicks inside the box. It's very rare. But what we do is we have a goalkeeper who holds on the ball forever. He doesn't release the ball whatsoever. The number of times, and I bet you, count to a penny, the three of you have sat there watching and thinking, just release the ball quick, just get it up the line, there's a break on. And he's standing and he's looking, he's waiting. And then that time wasting element comes in the 55th, 56th minute and beyond. And it's obviously a tactic that we've adopted. Just to slow the game, calm the game down, especially away from home. I mean, how many times has Dubravka been booked, Darlow been booked in the last 18 months because of time wasting? I think that of all the goalkeepers in the Premier League, I bet you they've been booked the most. I haven't looked it up, by the way. I've just taken that off the top of my head from observation. So if I'm wrong, shoot us down in flames.
Yeah. A little bit of news breaking on Twitter. I mean, it's Twitter. It's not official news channels, but the rumours, starting already about who we're going to sign, who we're going to bring in. Jordi Toomvalice, as a journalist on Twitter, has just put it out that Nunes is a potential. Ian Hull as well has said that we've made a £60 million offer for Darwin Nunes. Of course, Manchester United are after him. Paqueta's getting mentioned already. It's a silly season, Mitch, and the season hasn't even finished yet. Well,
have you noticed how it's ramped up since last Friday's result?
Yeah.
And then suddenly now we're looking a little bit more mathematically safe. There's little whispers appearing from all over the place, which I've got absolutely no doubt are agent-driven. It's as simple as that, agent-driven. Whether it's true or not, who bloody knows? I would suggest that Newcastle United and the ownership have learned over the last 6 months not to be so naive as to trust people and let things slip out. This is probably all agent-driven. Like that stupid little story about Richarlison yesterday, where the journalist then adds on the bottom, but no talks yet, obviously, because he's fully committed to Everton. Yeah, well, his agents are hawking him around fully in just in case, We know what goes on. We know how it happens. We are going to be subject to a hell of a lot of it, where there's going to be a lot of white noise for us to filter out, almost to the point of ignore everything until you see them on the bloody pitch with the shirt and the scarf, I can't see much leaking out after, for example, the carry on with what's his name at Villarreal, the manager, and the shenanigans his agents got up to get him a new deal. Emery, yeah, that was all about getting him a new deal at Villarreal. He was never made an offer. He was never first choice at Newcastle United. Yes, he did come over to talk. We know he did. We've got the proof of it. And we know his agents were in and out like the fiddler's bloody elbow for a week. And what was that all about? Well, what happened in the end? He got a new contract. The fair play to him. He's done really well with them. He's got them to the Champions League semi-finals and what have you. Well, that's what that was all about. And that's what this is about, in my opinion. It's agent noise, it's white noise, and we've got to be very, very careful what we listen to in the coming months. It's going to be nothing short of bonkers. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another one of those situations you have to face when when you have a takeover like we've had here, isn't it? We've got some big hitters who run our football club, and our January transfer window was a lot more successful than many others. And people are expecting big things in the summer.
Well, absolutely, and the thing is, from a fan perspective, you know, it's nice to be able to hope once more. You know, we had given up, hadn't we? And we just, you know, that was something that we couldn't even aspire to hope. You know, but I mean, the thing is, I kind of feel sorry for the new owners, because they've literally been having to systematically go through club systems, you know, at every level. I mean, you know, I've had conversations with people from the club this week about how crap the online ticket buying system is, you know, and it's all of those things, you know, they're having to deal with all of that, as well as, you know, look at, you know, how do we manage the team? What's the aspiration for the team? How, you know, what does the manager want us to do? You know, and which players do we want to bring in? Which players do we want to retain? So, you know, it's a new broom, and they've still got quite a lot of sweeping to do from the Ashley era, as the shenanigans over the ticket sales for the Liverpool game showed this week, you know.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, we've just got to maintain a sense of realism, keep our feet on the ground. Eddie Howe's tried to push that narrative as well in the press conference today again.
Absolutely, and that's the fight that he's going to have, because he's just trying to just get with it, as the lads in the Strawberry would say. Calm your chickens, lads. Calm your chickens. There's nothing crazy going on yet. There's plenty of time. We'll go out and we'll get the players we need, or get the players we want, and the players in our system at the right time, at the right price. We know what we're doing, and there will be agents everywhere throwing names around, throwing players. You know, I think the latest list of players that link to us is now up in the 500s, and we haven't even got the end of the season yet. God knows what it's going to be like once we get into that window itself. But this is going to be a very, very interesting window for Newcastle, but it's also going to be a very, very interesting window, because I don't think there's going to be that much going on internationally, because we've got the World Cup coming up. So I think a lot of the top players are waiting until next season. And it's very noticeable how a lot of the top players' contracts don't come up for renewal until next season. You know, players with 1 year or 18 months currently left on their contract, etc. And that's because those top players see themselves as being at the World Cup and being on the world stage and performing well, and that's where they're gonna really make their money. It's going to be some of the younger ones. You notice some of the South Americans. It's South American players that are being linked with at the moment, an awful lot of them, and that's because their league is really different. It's also because there's a little game that gets played in South America constantly because of this business of kids being able to, like for example, Man United have got a 17-year-old who's already getting capped for Argentina. The reason he's getting capped for Argentina and he hasn't even played a game for Manchester United yet is because once that happens, his value rockets. But it also means that he's stuck as Argentina because he's got potential dual nationality with either Portugal or Spain or Italy. So there's all of these little games that get played with agents, etc., that we've got to be aware of. So when we get thrown a name at us, then, you know, you're just going to have to ride with it and just wait until you see him. And we'll use that old analogy, standing there in the director's box or on the pitch with the shirt, holding it up with his name or the scarf above his head. That's when we've signed. That's when we know they've signed.
As we learned in January, you know, how many names were we thrown? And we knew there was things put in place for them. And then at the last minute, it didn't go through or something changed. And I think this window, I think the club are going to be super fluid. I think their approach to the transfers will be very fluid. I think they'll have a number of deals, all of which they would be happy to do. And they'll just let them slide around until one falls into place, and then the next one, and then the next one. And I think that's how it'll work. I think it's going to be more than bonkers. It's going to be like playing Kaplunk and Twister at the same time, I think. But yeah, isn't it good though? We're going to be talking about some fantastic big names in potential signings and players with huge potential to go on. If they sign the quality at the same level as Bruno and Trippier and Target, we've got every right to get excited about it, because if that's where the bar is, and they're going to say to us, we're going to nudge it higher, dear me, it's going to be super exciting.
As Ian said, it's great to have the hope back. And as I said, It's great to have Ian back, but the hour is up, and Ian is, as always, probably going off to cook some delicacy for his wife.
Indeed.
He is. What are you making tonight?
I've got a couple of. It's been pushed the boat out, Stephen. I've got a couple of nice steaks. I'll have steak and salad for our dinner tonight. So that's what we're doing.
Very good. Well, I tell you what, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back, mate, and look forward to getting you back on maybe in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, we'll be completely safe by then, and look forward to welcoming you back then, mate.
Well, before I go, can I just give a quick shout out, by the way, to Gateshead, because Gateshead won 6-0 away at Guiseley the day, and Brackley drew at Leamington, so Gateshead are back top of the National League. Well done to them.
Well done.
Yeah, come on, Gateshead. That would be great. It would be a great end of season. Newcastle staying up and Gateshead getting promoted. That would be
it's a canny little knock, to your opposition, because they're neck and neck. There was a point between them today, and then to go away to Guiseley and win 6-0 away, that lets them know that you're there. That's a good result.
I
think
North Shields won as well today, didn't they? North Shields won the league today. I think they beat Whitley Bay 3-1. I think it was 3-1 in the end. So well done to North Shields as well.
And your kitchen's holding up, Ian. Simon Davies seems to be determined to get an answer on it. It's been a year or so since the kitchen guys came in, but well done to Chris Collins and the lads.
I tell you what, I never had a chance to sort of give them much of a shout, but Orcott Interior, as the lads were called, and they did a great job, and they didn't take me eyes out, so well happy.
Spot on. Well, we'll let you go and use the kitchen, Ian. Good to have you back, mate. See you soon.
Real pleasure. Take care, everybody. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Okay,
great to have Ian on. Absolute pleasure. Good to have him back, and we will be getting him back on soon. And in the next couple of weeks, it will be the return of Keith Patterson as well. Keith will be back on the show. So looking forward to having him laughing at Steve Hasty. So find a few Steve Hasty lookalikes. That's probably the best thing to do.
That's probably what he's been doing for the last 6 months.
Big shout out to our sponsors, Spider Miner, worldwide coverage, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 0191 389 7245, and the Garden of Healing Dispensaries, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.guhd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Cleakai, meet the new game over screen dropping to a Clearrun device near you. Available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks also to Media Arts. If you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to your social media. Drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and all podcast providers. If you want to become a member, then pay a £25 one-off fee. You get a cup, a scarf, a membership card and a pen, and entry into the monthly draw, of which we will have one tonight. To become a member, go to the website NUFCmatters.com and look for membership, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it will take you straight there. And if you are a subscriber, you will get a free car sticker, but you need to email NUFCmatters.com to get your free car sticker sent out. Don't forget, Supermax at the Dog and Parrot this coming Sunday and on Wednesday, but with Holly Blades. Holly will be interviewing Malcolm pre-match and post-match at the Dog and Parrot on Sunday. So get along, give them a bit of support. It's free entry, kids are welcome, good food, good beer, and good crack. Get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot. And don't forget as well, the food bank, which took over $3,500 at the last home game, still needs your support each and every game. So please get yourself up to St James's Park and across the road from Shearers to support the guys at the food bank at the next 2 home games. If you can't do that, if you're an exiled mag and you live abroad, then get yourself onto nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. There is a match day bucket. It's a virtual bucket. You can make a donation there. You've got an hour to enter the Shearer Ball competition. There is 99 tickets at the start. There is only 15 left. So enter now at NUFCmatters.com. It's a £5 ticket to win a signed 260 Alan Shearer ball. We've got quite a few of those. We may do another raffle of some sort with one of those in the future, but get yourself involved in that and we will be drawing that in an hour. Got to give a big thank you to Frode as well, who donated this wonderful signed Dortmund top, signed by Haaland. Now that's up for grabs on my Twitter at the moment. I put it up yesterday. It's currently at £310, that shirt. So it's got another week to go. Get your bids in. Signed by Haaland. Frode actually used to coach Haaland. And there it is, that shirt signed by Haaland. Could he be wearing a black and white shirt in the summer? There's me causing a bit of transfer gossip myself, but you never know. You could have a Dortmund one and a Newcastle one framed by this time next season. But get yourself involved, bid. All proceeds go to the food bank, and as I say, £310 is the current bid. And John has also put some of these on the website, £50 each, special commemorative 260 dinner t-shirt and mug gift packs. If you can't afford the ball or don't want to get into the raffle, you just want something with Shearer's signature on, then you can get that. And there's the good news. 2 winners tonight in the NUFC Matters members draw, which will take place round about 7:15. Get yourself on to the website and become a member, and you could actually win something signed by Alan Shearer. So thank you for doing them, John. They look very good, very nice indeed. Don't forget as well, we're also supporting the women's football match, which takes place on the 1st of May. First time they've played at St James's Park against Barnsley women. Tickets are £3. Get yourself along to St James's Park on the day. It should be a cracking match to watch, and looking forward to seeing that. Okay, as you know, we always do a monthly competition where we give you a clue each week. So I'm just going to run you through the first 3 clues, which were Southam, 1980 to 1984, and Chesterfield, 1976. So your 4th and final clue, and then you have to give the answer, is this. The person suggested broke his leg playing against which club? So that's the question. First answer that John sees in the chat will be the winner of 4 tickets to the Andy Griffin Talk-In, which is something we are about to announce now. And that is an evening with Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin, Friday the 24th of June. Tickets are £12 if you want VIP to meet him and get a photograph and something signed, £15. And it is at Shearer's Bar. 24th of June, doors at 7 o'clock, tickets £12 and £15, and tickets for that are on sale now on the website NUFCmatters.com. So get yourself involved and get yourself along to that one. Should be a good summer's night out. So get yourself along. Look forward to seeing you there. Okay, back to the chat. And Martin Wood says, Mitch, hi lads, with the financial fair play being mentioned today by Eddie Howe, is there any news on sponsorship deals to generate extra funds for the club? And we'll dovetail that one with the comment from Ari, who I think asks this question every week. Any CEO news? So yeah, I guess people are keen on knowing whether there's anything on these two these 2 questions.
Latter one's the easiest one to start with. I believe it's down to 2 candidates. I believe one is favoured over the other, and the one who isn't favoured has suggested that they're not interested, that they want to stay where they are. So that's my understanding at the minute. I don't have anything else. I haven't had anything else on that since the start of the week. So that's as much with the CEO. I do think the appointment will be progressive. I think if they went for either of the candidates that have been mentioned to me, it'll be seen as being progressive, that's for sure. It'll stick one up the Daily Mail and their bone so anti-Saudi rhetoric. The sponsorship deals, again, I heard a whisper that a lot of the commercial deals were going to be handled from this region, though not necessarily from Saudi directly. The indications being possibly somebody based actually here in the UAE, connected via one of the big retail groups here in the UAE. And that would be an interesting move, because everybody's going to be picking over every deal about associated parties. Why not use PIF's general relationships, where there's not necessarily an ownership, or there's not necessarily a part ownership involved, but rather commercial partnerships that already exist in the region that generate billions of dollars, and use those relationships to enhance Newcastle United and make them look rosy from a financial fair play point of view, which, to me, if that's the kind of moves they're making, I told you to do it cleverly. They're not coming into it stupidly. They've seen what's happened to Man City. They've seen what's happened to Man City in the last 2 weeks. Still mud-big and slumming them. Still talk about going back to the court of arbitration for sport. And trying to reopen cases that have already been partially closed and written off. And I think the lessons learned from some of the moves that Man City made to unbalance the power and to balance their books, I think our guys would be looking at them saying, right, I see where they went wrong there. There's a better way to do that, and nobody can do a thing about it. And I think that's the kind of commercial relationships you're going to see exploited and used in this. But also these deals need to be absolutely watertight, because I can guarantee you the Premier League probably won't wait to pull a deal on us after the whole shenanigans with the takeover. I think we'll be looked at not with a fine-tooth comb, the bloody nit comb. You know, they'll be pouring through looking for every minute detail they can find to say So that's why there's probably no news of it, and I suspect they're all going to be announced in one. Boom.
Steve?
I think that's quite intriguing. I think the idea, and this is where perhaps people like yourselves and other people like you, Steve, probably are not aware of how intertwined some of these international companies are in the Middle East. Companies, say, in Saudi Arabia, or companies in the UAE that also have outlets, and Mitch mentioned their, particular institutions that own property. It's amazing how those companies are just as big in one country as in the other, but perhaps based in the UAE rather than based in Saudi or in Bahrain or Oman or where it happens to be. But these are still big international companies, with their fingers right across the Middle East. And I think that's an area that sponsors are looking for. Being linked to the football club is going to be very, very important for those industrialists who are involved in that type of thing. So I think that's quite fascinating to hear Mitch say. I was going to say I'd heard that as well, but that's because I heard it from Mitch. So there's my source blown.
Fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay. As always, we love to play a little bit of music that it certainly caused a little bit of interest amongst the chat over the months, but I think it's become a firm favourite. The day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting football players from Newcastle's past or present, and managers or whatever, or somebody who works at the club. This week was some photographs from Terry Moran, who used to be a referee in the Sunday leagues that I used to play in. Thank you, Terry. I've got to mention Joseph Burleson's first, though, and this was one from the Shearer night the other night, where he said, a smashing night at the Shearer 260 dinner. Meeting my hero. Not much has changed since my last photo opportunity. That was brilliant. Thank you, Joseph. Absolutely brilliant. So thanks for that. But anyway, on to Terry's photographs, and some absolute belters here. First up, KK.
Good.
Very good. Terry Mack.
Hey.
Terry, you look as if you're a waxwork model on that one, mate. He looks like he's looks like he's visiting them on there. And Super Mac, which was an event I did, I think, if I remember rightly. But thank you, Terry, for those. Thank you for sharing them, and keep them coming in. If you've met any famous Newcastle players or managers or whatever, please send them into the DI message. This quiz has certainly got them flummoxed. John Justice Allen says still no correct answer. Clue, former club of Mickey Quinn. Well, that's got them flying in now. Gary says Portsmouth. Oldham Athletics says Mark Edward Brown. Political bias says Liverpool. So surely there's a winner amongst them. There's got to be. Coventry says Ian. Fulham says Tom. Oh my God, they're all flying in. Paul Gibson anyway. He says Ladbrokes next door to the Irish Centre made thousands off Terry Mack allegedly. And Keith says the drum beat on the day I met music reminds me of Led Zeppelin's Kashmir and Puff Daddy's Come With Me songs. Interesting, yeah, very interesting. Gareth, from our illustrious sponsors, Spider VPN, aka Spider Miner, says, evening lads, can't quite believe we put €60 million bid in for Nunes. I hope we nail him down, but if not, what do you think of Zapata from Atlanta? More attainable, I feel. Yeah, Mitch, we've been linked with this guy before, haven't we?
There was talk about him in January. And wasn't he injured at the time or something like that? So, like I say, let's wait and see who walks on the pitch, holding shirt and the scarf over the head. You know, it's just great to be able to talk about potentially signing world class, not just top class, world class players. Mm-hmm. Isn't this a different conversation to who we're getting on the cheap and who's near the end of their contract and who might come and do a job for it? I never want to hear any of you say that's a great signing. He'll do a job for it ever again. I know we will say that again because we will make that type of signing on occasion. But it's far more exciting as a fan to be talking about, we're spending 60 million on him, 50 million on him. Can we have them both, please? You know, isn't it just crazy? It's such a difference on where we were 7-8 months ago, and you could have envisaged it really. So yeah, I can't believe what's happening in these conversations too. But I'm really pleased we are.
Yeah. Well done, Ian McCubbin, if that's how you say it. Apologies if it's not. You're the winner of the 4 VIP tickets for Andy Griffin. You've got the correct team. I'm not sure what the correct team was or who the player was, to be perfectly honest. Derek Sharp says Arthur Cox broke his leg playing for Coventry City. So was it Arthur Cox? That rings a bell. He was at Chesterfield, I think.
Yeah. Arthur was the name.
John says correct, but not the winner. Okay, so there we go. That was it. So yeah, Ian McCubbin, congratulations. Or McCubbin, well done. Hope to see you at the Andy Griffin talking. Yeah, Steve, I mean, again, we've covered this already, but yeah, Zapata would be attainable, I certainly think. But I think they'll have a long list of names drawn up.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, Zapata we talked about in January along with dozens of other players. Zapata's issue is he's 31-year-old. I think, whereas you're looking at Nunes, who's barely out of nappies in comparison. You know, we saw him playing for Benfica the other night. Looks the part, looks just like the sort of mobile sort of striker that would fit in with the style of football that we're playing. Could play off with another partner, that type of thing. That's why I don't think that Zapata would now be someone that would be looking at. I was never too sure whether Zapata was a player that genuinely were looking at, or whether that was just another one of the 501 names that the press had at that particular time. But as Mitch says, just great to be actually, have the players of this sort of ilk being mentioned as possibilities for Newcastle United. That's what's good about it. And we're not being linked with the usual suspects either, and we know that the agents are going to be throwing names around left, right, and centre over the next three to 4 months. The other players that are interested, you're looking in the midfield, you're looking at at Bruno's mate. You're looking at Calvin Phillips. Their names that have been mentioned. I think the midfield and getting some dynamic midfielders is the sort of area that Newcastle will be looking at. We've talked about a goalkeeper, and again, someone to challenge Dubravka and push him. Whether it will be pushing Dubravka out or whether it's just to push him in that particular his position, I'm never too sure. I could see Dubravka leaving, to be perfectly honest, because he's been here a few seasons, and again, it's the sort of thing that could happen. He could be looking and saying, "Well, you know, I'm at the point in my career where I'm looking for a move, where I'm moving on as a first class goalkeeper, and looking at a number one place, and not just moving because I'm being pushed out. Who's to know? And I certainly think they will be looking for a striker to play alongside, to replace, or to complement what we've already got. The big question for everybody, well, certainly the question for me, is who's going to leave. You know, we've got it's the gaps that have to be filled, but who are they going to farm out? Who's going
not
to
Sean Longstaff, it appears, because Eddie Howe.
That was what I was going to say, because it looks like, and Eddie's spoken for the last fortnight, 3 weeks, about how close and how much he wants him and how close we are to staying. And I would be one who would be absolutely delighted if he stayed, to be perfectly honest. Is
that a good step, Mitch? Do you think keeping Sean Longstaff has got any value in it? Is it not just is this not just flannel? I've heard him say similar about Dwight Gale.
He's still the same player who at one point there was talk about Man U valuing him at 50 million. And the injury he had that took him out at that stage, I think, was worse than we realised. And it really has made him have a step back. I still think his better role is more advanced. It's off the front man. It's in that, because that's where you look a different class at times. And I think you need to nurse back into that. He can take that role, but there's a lot more competition for the role. But also, he'll tick another box as a homegrown player. We've got to think about squad management here. Yeah. Something we've been absolutely shite at for the last couple of years, it has to be said. You know, our squad management's been appalling. You know, if it wasn't, it'd go back to Pardew when we're about 800 left backs. You know, and come forward from there. The squad management generally has been rubbish. And what we'll have to be thinking about these things, about where can we free slots up to bring players who don't qualify under that and players who don't qualify under that. Because again, putting a squad together, that 25, is becoming more and more like Jenga every bloody week about the different stipulations they want on it for who can fit and who can play and who can't play and who doesn't sit and who doesn't sit and who qualifies as this and who doesn't qualify as that. If there's wind blowing in the right direction and somebody's wearing red socks, then it can be claimed to be homegrown. However, it's a Wednesday when you put the application in, all applications are rejected. It's part of the squad management, and I think we'll have to think about that too.
Do you think? Do you also think, Mitch, that as the game evolves and the game changes, we all know that the game goes through iterations, and we've talked about earlier with the goalkeeper. All of a sudden, we've now got goalkeepers that have to be able to play the ball out and act as almost a sweeper and are good at their feet. Do you think as defenders, central defenders, become more mobile, more agile, that holding midfielder role is no longer the role that's necessary? You're looking at Chelsea and you're looking at Kante and Jorginho, and they're no longer relying on those players playing every week. They're changing the style. They've got a midfielder like Kovacic, who's a lot more mobile than either of those two. And because they're playing the game at a little bit of a faster pace, they tend to play those other players. And we've also seen Kante, who's been playing further up the pitch. I think the days of the holding midfielder, as the game evolves, is no longer that vital role, because the game is being played faster. I think
traditional holding midfielders are no more
in the game now.
Yeah, traditional holding midfielders are no more. Your holding midfielders now have to also be able to play, and play at pace.
Yeah,
and you're right. You're seeing evolutions in positions which are quite the opposite way around. Remember when Lothar Matthäus went from an all-action midfielder to a sweeper to a centre back? You're now seeing players coming the other way, and that's because the football and centre backs are almost now. Look at somebody like Fernandinho at Man City.
Mm.
When he plays centre back, he's quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he's an even better in midfield.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and you used to see players like Desai and who was the other one? The Palace manager Vieira. You know, there'd be all action midfielders, then be defensive midfielders, and then they'd see their career out at centre back. That's not happening anymore. It's going the opposite direction. Because I think the demands of the game are very, very different. It's being played at a greater pace. And traditional defensive roles have totally evolved. We probably, in Emil Kraft, got one of the very few proper right fullbacks. I don't think Tricky isn't a proper right fullback. He's almost a wing back playing as a right fullback, for example. Target on the other side, similar. You know, and that's the evolution of the game.
Yeah, you don't having the water carrier midfielder either, as they used to describe Deschamps, because he was there to allow Zidane to play. You had that holding midfielder. Now they tend to play as a partnership, and they play 10, 15 yards further up the pitch. You know, it was like that with England during the World Cup, where we started off during the Euros. Rather, you started off with Rice and Phillips playing alongside each other, and everybody went two defensive midfielders. Well, actually, you started moving them further up the pitch because it was they were given that space because that was the way that you had to evolve. So I think you're right. I think it's the way that the game's going, and that's where I think Sean Longstaff and his career can be rejuvenated, because I think he's that player who can play the midfield role much, much better when he's further up the pitch.
Tim says he has a question, lads. Do you think we could finish in the top 10 next season, or even Europe, perhaps?
You know what, for me, looking at some of the other things that have come across there, is if we spend next season not talking about relegation and sitting in and around the top 10, that'll do for me. That's progress. That's not Steve Bruce's progress. That's proper progress. And to see an improvement of what we can do on the pitch, and to see us take on the big teams the way we have this season, since Howe come in, where we've not looked afraid, we've only had one proper shellacking, and that was really 47 bad minutes. That wasn't a 90-minute shellacking, that was a 47-minute. We got outdone. And we've got to take it out on the chin. It's fine. It was a nice reminder of where we're really at and what the gap to the top 6 really is. But that still sticks in my craw. We didn't get 3 points at Chelsea, because we fucking should have had 3 points at Chelsea. And so, you know, to enjoy games like that, to not talk about relegation for a single bloody day of the season, that'll keep me happy. And then the rest will look after itself. And I think if we do that, top 10 is not unrealistic at all.
No,
based on what we've done this season, it's not unrealistic. And so, set that as our bar, and then say to Newcastle United, "Come on, surprise me."
Top 4.
Let's see what you can really do.
Well, you know what? It depends on the signings, but if you look at our last game and the next 2 that we've got, they're the teams we're competing with next season for that 8th spot. You know, the Wolverhampton Wanderers, the Leicester Cities, and the Crystal Palaces, the way that they've been playing. And Palace have also got a cup match to think about. So we're playing them on Wednesday. And depending on what happens on Sunday, they're either going to be high as a kite and not interested in the league, or they're going to have got beaten and they're going to be thinking, I'm sick of his chip. That's opportunities. This is the nature of the game now, isn't it? But they're the 3 clubs at the moment that we're looking at. And that's that little competition that we're hopefully that we're going to be part of, and competing for that top 8 spot, or that 8th spot. And then anything else that comes after that, when you start to compete with the big boys, that depends on who we're buying and who they're not buying, who we're buying to stop them from buying, who's coming to us rather than going to Arsenal, for example, etc., etc. So this is the fascinating bit, and this is where Eddie Howe will start to earn his corn, because he's then going to be in with the top coaches. We saw it the other night or a fortnight ago against Conte, where he was out. County outcoached him. Let's face it. Conte made the decisions at the right time. He spotted the gaps. He knew what we'd done wrong. We didn't spot the changes they would make. But this is where Eddie Howe would be on a learning curve, just like the rest of us. And this is what's going to make next season interesting, and the following season and beyond, because it's a combination of the players, the style of football, and what the manager has us to do, and also how other people around us are competing and challenging. So bring it on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, last chance to get your tickets for the Alan Shearer signed 260 ball. These are limited to 260, 1 to 260, and 99 tickets were available. I believe we're down to the last 15. NUFCmatters.com. Got about 15-20 minutes to enter that. We will announce the winner before we finish tonight, so do not miss out on that. Okay, half an hour to go. I suppose we better get through this. I wouldn't say there's been a scourge of these. There's been a few Steve Wraith ones knocking around this week, but there hasn't been as many. But we've still got enough to fill at least 5 minutes on the show. This one was sent to us a couple of times. Once by Peter G. Says, found this on the interwebby thing, made me laugh. The young ones and the Sussexes. And the same one was sent to us by Michael Barlow. Since leaving Buckingham Palace, life is taking its toll. Of course, ironic that we should show them today when they've sneaked back in the country to see the grandma last night. So thank you for sending those ones in. This one from Mitch. Thank you, Mitch. Provided by James, which is very good. It is very good. I've got. Is that Donatello, maybe?
I can't remember the colours, to be fair.
Well, I can't remember them, but yeah, very good. It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle anyway. And so it begins. That's Steve Wraith, that. I'll take that.
I'm happy with that, though. No.
There's worse people to be compared to. Not me, but Shelby. Mark Byers put, little known fact that John Joe Shelby actually has a full head of grey hair, which Frank Bruno shaves off for him before every game.
Great photo, that.
That was brilliant. Like, it was really good. And if you really scrolled in, it does look like him. NUFC Geordie says, Jack Begley from the Curse of Oak Island with yourself. Again, pretty good. Yeah. Looks like I'm out for a walk along the River Tyne. I can see that. This one was from Tom, Joe Hart, and James Van de Beek.
Yeah. No idea who James Van de Beek is, but
very good. Yeah, I've got no idea either. He does do his homework though. Yeah. Jack Rodwell and Taylor Lautner.
Yes. Often thought
see that.
Yeah.
Jack Rodwell didn't see much of him on a football pitch. Gus Hiddink and Susan Boyle.
Yes.
But the big question is, can Gus Hiddink sing?
And which one's which?
Yeah, thanks. You can tell by the style of these that they're Tom Dixon's. Lasana Diarra and a dolphin. I think Tom was on the drink at this stage. I think so, aye. By the time he got, he's going down the Albert Mooney kind of road of lookalikes. We've had this one, the guy from Terminator and Emil Kraft. Yeah, I've often thought that, which is pretty good.
Good one.
What was a good one? Bearded Meatball sent us this: Paul Mitchell, ex-footballer and current sporting director at Monaco, and me. Yeah.
Right.
Bald and a bit of stubble, it's me. Yep. This one, Sam Chipperfield says, think Steve Hasty is ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, fair enough. Cheers, Sam.
I'm glad Ian's not on while we showed this one. This is from Ugly Camel. Very good. Both full of hot air, possibly. Again, Susan Boyle making it into the top three. Jeremy Clarkson and Susan Boyle. Very good. And the winner is from me. Aris Pina put this up. George Foreman after fighting Alex Stewart, which took place 30 years ago today, and Ericsson Lubin after fighting Sebastian Fundora on Saturday.
Dear me, what a mess the pair of them are, aren't they?
Brutal.
Very, very similar though. Both very similar. So I've chucked in the own lookalike this week, folks, and given myself a pat on the back. So that is the lookalikes. Keep them coming in. Send them to me, Steve, or to Mitch. And I think that probably tells you not to take up box. Okay, we've got 25 minutes left, and as always, we have a look at the forthcoming fixture, which of course is Leicester City. So without further ado, let us hear what Toon Stato has got to say.
Hello amigos, Leicester on Sunday. If we win, it will be our 5th consecutive win in the league at St. James's Park, something that we haven't done since 2019 when we won 5 in a row with Rafa Benitez at the helm. At the same time, Leicester have won their last 5 visits at St. James's Park, and on top of this they also eliminated us from the League Cup back in 2019 after penalties. Now, this is a feat that hasn't happened many times in the history of Newcastle United. In recent history, only Man City between 2010 and 2014 won 5 in a row at St. James's Park. That's why I fully expect us to change this on Sunday. And personal stat, I have been to 2 games against Leicester City and we lost both of them. I cannot believe that I won't be striking a 3rd time lucky this weekend. When we talk about goal scorers, our top goal scorer for the season is Callum Wilson with 6, and he hasn't played and scored since December. Second is Alan Saint-Maximin with 5, and his last goal was exactly 3 months ago on the 15th of January. So somehow we managed to pick up form without our 2 top scorers scoring anything since mid-January till today. As you all know, Leicester made it to the semi-finals of the Conference Cup, and congratulations to them. I had a look at their record after playing European games this season, because on Thursday against PSV Eindhoven, they played their 12th European game of the season. In the previous 11 games, in the immediate game in the league after playing in Europe in midweek, they haven't done that bad actually. They have won 6, drawn 2, and lost only 3 of their games. So we shouldn't be expecting an easy game on Sunday. But as I mentioned, it's high time that we break the luck against these guys. See you on Sunday, everyone.
Andre, thank you very much for that, mate, and trust the new family as well. Newcastle playing Leicester City at home on Sunday, 2:15 kickoff live on Sky Sports. The game is a sellout. And pre-match, don't forget, Supermac and Holly will be at the Dog and Parrot at midday, and they will be there post-match at 4:30. Free admission, kids welcome, good food, good drink, and good crack. Get yourself along. As for team news, Joe Willock is expected to be available after recovering from a virus. Ryan Fraser is a doubt, but not written off completely. Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier have started training again, but there's no indication on when they will return to first team action. As for Leicester, well, Wilfred and Diddy, Ryan Bertrand and Danny Ward are all missing due to injury. Jamie Vardy is also unlikely to feature. Jose Perez was on the bench last night, though, so he could find himself facing his former teammates. And Thursday, of course, brought a 2-way win away in the quarterfinal second leg against PSV after a scoreless first leg. So Leicester coming on a high, but maybe he's a little bit tired. Referee Jared Gillett is in charge, and on VAR, which is often switched off, is Lee Mason. So, guys, what are you expecting from this game at the weekend, Mitch?
What you will result against them? Listening to Andre there, what you will result against them? These runs always seem to come in certain ways, and they've got to come to an end at some stage. Also, they've played Thursday. That we know ourselves in the past. Playing Thursday, Sunday is not an easy turnaround. It never seems to work as well as Wednesday, Saturday. For some reason, it's no different. But it sometimes does seem to hold you back. We owe them one for that pathetic bloody dive that won the penalty down there as well. That really just turned the game. When we were still in the game, and then, he put his bloody 2 feet together. He might as well have done that and had a rubber ring on. It was pathetic, really. So all of them won, and we're due a result. And I think, again, play like we did against Wolves, put that level of effort in. There's no doubt they're going to have a changed side. It might not necessarily be their strongest side either. So we might not have a better opportunity to nick 3 points off them than now. Listening to the players last night and looking at the comments on a couple of websites today from the Leicester players, they're 100% focused on this European trophy. They see it as something to make history for themselves. Great, crack on, have a distraction. It's a distraction that we really could potentially take advantage of if that's the way they're thinking.
Steve, what about you? How do you see this one through your eyes?
A comment just came in there about their weakness at set pieces, etc. They're not just weak; they're absolutely shocking at set pieces in terms of their defensive capabilities. And this is where Chris Wood could really come and exploit them. I mean, he can drag Sekonchu all over the place, both in the air and on the ground. Don't
the zonal marks, Steve?
They do.
Doesn't Rodgers favour this bloody zonal marking, which I just don't get. I don't get in football. Don't get in football at all.
No, crazy. But they're a strange bunch. I mean, they can turn it on when they want, but as you say, Mitch, that it appears that they're concentrating on this crazy cup competition that UEFA have decided to bring in, this third competition. Used to have 3 competitions because the cup winners used to go into a competition. Now we've got this other ridiculous conference league. You know, what's all that about? But that's probably for another day. We've had some great games in the past against Leicester. You think of the performance that Emil Heskey put in and still ended up on a losing team when they were 3-1 up and we beat them 4-3. We'll go back to the 7-1 many, many years ago, which basically was our promotion party back in 92, 93, where we were 6-0 up at half time. But then it's not that long ago that we turned them over at their own place by 4-0. So, this is one of those clubs that when they've had Vardy playing, he seemed to have had the heck somewhere. Without Vardy against us, they're not as good, not as prolific, and not the prolific goal scorers that they are when Vardy's there. So I'm hoping Vardy isn't playing. Vardy was engaged to a friend of mine's daughter for a long, long time before he then moved on to his current partner. But that's another story again that we better not delve into. But I'm sure Mitch knows where I'm going from on that one. He's heard it many times. So I think that the fact that we've had a nice, easy, restful week, plenty of time to think about how we're going to put this game together, and what the tactics are going to be, and what's expected of the team. Whereas they've had to travel, go to PSV, a very, very difficult game, and I think that we can win this by 2 clear goals. I'm going to go for 2-0, but I wouldn't be surprised if we end up 3-1. But I'm going to go for 2-0 because Stewie's got 3-1.
I've gone for 1-1, to be honest. I haven't got the dice though, Mitch. That's the big question.
We have.
Okay, let's see what the dice say.
And the dice says 1-1.
Same as me. Yeah.
Interesting.
I know a lot of people seem to think there's going to be lots of goals in games because we're doing well at home, but we haven't got the capability of banging in lots of goals. You get the impression before the end of the season there could be a game where there's goals. Maybe this.
There will be a game. I think you're right. I think we'll have a game where we do go nap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe when the pressure's off.
Maybe, but I think I'd take a draw because if you said to me from the 2 home games we had coming up, 4 points, I would say that'll do. So that's a great starting point. I personally think we're going to win it though.
Maybe when we've got a recognised striker back and we've got Kieran Trippier back on the pitch.
What due result against these? That's why I just feel that we're due a result against them. So
all they really should do is show the video of the game if they've still got a video. It's probably a DVD, but you know what I mean. Show the highlights or the lowlights.
It'll be on a flash memory stick, Steve. It'll be on a
flash memory stick. At the game we played earlier in the season, we collapsed like a pack of cards. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good game to be at, and that bloody music kept coming on. When the score, I hate it, and all these bloody fake clappers and all that to do. But we owe them one, and sometimes just show them that defeat, and hopefully that will give the team a bit of a kickstart.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Bruno facing up against the likes of Maddison. That's going to be an interesting little duel, because he can be a little bit nasty when he wants to be. And I think this is where Bruno's going to suddenly start to learn what the Premier League's about, when he has the likes of Tielemans and Maddison, established Premier League players, and he's going to enjoy that. He's going to get hopefully the protection that he deserves from the referees, because I think it's. He's going to be one of these marked players. The better he plays, then quickly, especially when you get the likes of Jamie Carragher, who extol his virtues, I think that suddenly means managers start to look at them. And I think very often they can focus in on a player like that, and they can start to single him out. Certainly players will single him out for a little bit of treatment, just to see how good he is, see what he can take, see whether he has a petulant side, etc. So all of those little things all come into play, and this is where his teammates will be around him and protecting them. And it also depends as well where we play him, whether he plays in that sort of more number 8 style midfield role, or whether he sits in that holding role that we've just said doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, look, I can see why people are making some predictions, and a lot of people saying, 4-0, Andrew says ASM2 would do. But look, you've got to give Leicester credit. They're a good team. I think what Malcolm mentioned last night, and Gibbo touched on as well, is that, in the past, Leicester have come up here, under Ashley, and they've had nothing chucked at them by the crowd. And I mean, there's no noise. It hasn't been a cauldron of nastiness, and people well up for it. And there's been no atmosphere, and that has really played its part in Newcastle's demise. And what the lads were saying last night was, this is a difference in James's. This is a difference in James's Park now, isn't it, Mitch?
Aye, it is, and that's palpable from out here watching it on the telly. Friday night was spectacular. You could feel it. And funny enough, I was sitting chatting with Steve before the night we played Leicester. There was a Indian Premier League cricket match on, and two big Indian lads were watching the game on the table in front of them. And they were obviously supporting the two teams that were on. One was supporting one the other. And one of the teams won with a 6 off the last ball. And the friendship suddenly dissolved a little bit. And you can see they were sniping at each other, and then they got chatting to us, and suddenly they're Newcastle fans. And one of them come over to us tonight. And when I was sat with Steve saying, are we playing tonight? Are we playing? It's like, hang on a minute, are you Newcastle now? Like, that's fantastic, and I love it. And he said, I love the flags. What a fantastic atmosphere. And it's selling the club worldwide, but also, yes, Mitch did just drop his dice. It's selling the club worldwide, but also for an opposing player to walk into that will be intimidating. That won't be necessarily a nice atmosphere to walk into when you know fine well these are the lads that are opposite you.
Yeah. Do you remember that atmosphere when during their championship winning season when they beat us 3-0? And I mean, that was the easiest 3-0 drubbing that they must have given somebody that season, because we went into that and the atmosphere was, I mean, they killed us within 20 minutes. They killed the crowd.
There's more atmosphere on Mars.
That particular one, and these are the things that you remember. And they did it so easy. That was when Vardy got I think he get his 12th goal in 12 games or something to equal the record. I think he broke.
And the biggest noise was our lot applauding.
That's right. Yeah. I think those days have gone. Hopefully, hopefully that the nasty streak. Although suddenly,
I'm all for sportsmanship, but I like a bit of shithousery.
Yeah.
I want more shithousery. Absolutely.
This has been your second half of your season's sort of most used phrase, hasn't it?
Yes.
And quite rightly. But Sunday afternoons tend to be often very quiet, especially a 2:15 kickoff. not so much the 4 or the 4:30 kickoff, but certainly a 2:15 kickoff or a 2:30. So this is where the flags helps. This is where the atmosphere beforehand helps, because you get into it. Having said that, I thought the atmosphere against Wolves for a Friday night, an 8 o'clock kickoff, was quite flat. In fact,
it was that kind of game. They made it flat by coming and being negative and going for the draw.
Yeah, and whether or not Leicester will use that as a starting point to try and nullify the crowd by that type of football, or whether they're going to go slightly differently, who knows? Are they travelling well these days? They seem to be an up and down club. The home form hasn't been very good. Their away form suddenly picked up again, but they're just an awkward team, because you don't know what you're coming up against. You don't know whether it's going to be a good, open, expansive game, or whether they really are going to be a team that's just going to stifle you until the 70th minute. Bit like Wolves, actually.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, members draw is about to take place. So if you are a NUFC Matters cult member, then you could win one of these wonderful presentation cases, the Alan Shearer presentation case. It's signed by Alan Shearer. There is a T-shirt and a cup in there, special commemorative ones. There is only, I believe, 25 of these done, so it's a real collector's item. Alan Shearer has signed the top. If you want to buy one, if you don't win it, they retail at £50 each at NUFCmatters.com. So good luck, and we're about to do the draw now. So that's A. Bygate and T. Armstrong. And if I remember rightly, that's Andrew Bygate and Terry Armstrong. So well done, guys. You are the winners of those two commemorative boxes. Well done. 2 winners tonight. Thank you to John for his generosity at QTech, as always. So that leaves 23 of those left. So if you want to get one, get yourself to NUFCmatters.com and get your box today. And as for the Alan Shearer ball, well, the winner of that should be in my WhatsApp now. So bear with us and I will check. And it is a congratulations to David Spillett. David Spillett, you are the winner of the Alan Shearer ball. So congratulations, well done. If you contact John at NUFCmatters.com, we will arrange how we get that ball to you. I am sure we'll be able to sort that out in the next couple of weeks. So give us a shout, David. Thank you very much. And yeah, there is John, as always, putting things up there. Email John at NUFCmatters.com for prizes. Tom saying, what are our thoughts on people taking the flags away from the ground? It's a bit disappointing, lads, isn't it? I think, though, judging by some of the responses I've seen on social media, some of these people generally haven't realised that taking the flags isn't something that they should be doing, Mitch.
Look, bottom line, if you've got one, give it back. And remember, in the future, tell everybody you can, these are not to be taken away, they're to be left at everybody's flags. And that's what we need to do. And yeah, if somebody makes a genuine mistake, that's fine, but I'm quite sure they're being hollered at from all around about it as they're on the way out the stadium. I don't think you could maybe miss that. I've heard a suggestion that some of them had brought their own flags. Well, good luck getting them through the gates, lads and lasses. I don't get that one either. Please, just take, if you've taken one, don't want to know why you have, just take it back. Drop it back at the club. Say you found it. Say your next door neighbour had it. Don't care. Just bring it back.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, there's been 1 or 2 photos circulated on Twitter, which I think has embarrassed a few people. But I did get an email off one person saying, please, can you just let the people know that we will bring the flag back? We didn't realise we took it. I mean, you can't get mistakes.
Yeah, of course you can. And can I just point out that it was a joke when I said that my dad had taken the flag home as a present for Amanda for her birthday. It was a joke, folks.
Yeah, David, well done, mate. Congratulations. It's a lovely piece, mate, and it's a collector's item. So congratulations on winning that. Gary says a Friday night game should kick off at 11 o'clock. Dear me, I would imagine Northumbria Police wouldn't be too happy about that, I don't think. Julie, thank you for your support as always. She says, if you've liked the show, click the thumb up and subscribe and join the cult. Yeah, please. And if you want to make some kind of financial gesture, you can become a member on the channel as well. You can join. It doesn't cost as much as 25 quid. We appreciate it. Times are hard, so if you want to, just click join underneath the video and you can do that as well. Michael Clark says those taken flags should be banned from the ground. They know what they're doing. Yeah, you do get, unfortunately, Michael, some people who genuinely don't realise what they're doing is wrong. So I think it would be hard to manage that. I've got to be perfectly honest. Okay, Julie, as you are patiently waiting at home, here you go. Two little ones today. First of all, it's a flag-related one, actually. Lewis Courtney, for some reason, said anything to say for yourself, and then just put a picture of this poor bloke on the metro with a flag, trying to say that it was me, which caused a huge thread, which I'm not going to go into. But Lewis, it wasn't me, mate, and I know what you were trying to do. But,
the metro doesn't go to yours either.
No, it definitely doesn't. You're quite right there. This one was from George. I'm not sure why he was passing a message on for this guy, but the guy's obviously on Twitter. He could have told us himself. But cheers, George. Thanks for the message. I received it loud and clear and then blocked you. Cheers, mate. So as always, it's been a fantastic week on NUFC Matters. I am going to have another sabbatical, but you will already notice that the programmes are already pre-recorded and done for the forthcoming week. There is Mick Lowe's tomorrow at 11 a.m. Sunday, we have me and Holly at 10 a.m. looking ahead to the Leicester game. Monday will be live, so please join Pete and Chris for the Fans Forum on Monday. And then next week, we've got a couple of different shows for you. Malcolm MacDonald and John Gibson have done separate shows to talk about their dream teams. Fascinating insight into how the mind works of one of the most respected journalists on the Newcastle beat, and how the mind works of one of the most exciting centre forwards that's ever played for Newcastle United. They've both picked some fascinating players, some fascinating teams, and some interesting managerial choices as well. So well worth tuning into both of those programmes. Sandwiched in between that on Wednesday, we've got a Geordie's Here, Geordie's There special, where myself and the lads sat and talked about Shearer. And we waxed lyrical about Shearer's best game and Shearer's best goal. We selected our favourite games and goals, which was an enjoyable experience. There was some surprises in there as well, things which we didn't expect, but there was some excellent stuff all round, and just want to thank everybody for taking the time to do it. We will be doing a live 3 Amigos, of course, next Friday, so plenty stuff for you to watch next week. I haven't let you down. Whenever I'm off, I still manage to keep you going and keep you going with your fix. Andrew, happy birthday. He just says it's cracking show, lads, and the prize for my birthday tomorrow. Thanks. Brilliant. So happy birthday, Andrew. Have a great day, mate. And, yeah, congratulations, mate, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All that needs to be said now is have a great Easter, everybody, especially me two pals, Mitch and Steve Hasty. Great to have Ian Mearns back on as well, and thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to the moderators as well for keeping things clean in the chat. Have a great Easter, and I'll see you all on my return. Take care, lads.
All the best.
Cheers, everyone.
Easter.